The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden light over the dusty plains of the Wild West. The widow, named Annabel, walked slowly towards the edge of town, her heart heavy with sorrow. Since the loss of her husband, life had become an endless struggle. She felt abandoned and alone, having been kicked out by her parents-in-law just weeks after his passing. How could they do this to me? She often wondered, gripping tightly to her loyal German shepherd, Rex. His comforting presence was the only thing keeping her from feeling completely lost. With no place to go and no family to turn to, Annabel had spent days wandering the surrounding lands, searching for purpose. The townsfolk whispered behind her back, their judgment weighing on her like a heavy coat in summer. They saw her as a widow with nothing left but a dog and sadness. Each evening, as the shadows grew long and the sun dipped below the horizon, Annabel found herself sitting on a stone by the riverbank, reminiscing about happier times with her husband. One fateful day, while exploring beyond the town's border, she stumbled across an old log cabin for sale, with a price tag of only $5. Intrigued yet cautious, she sensed that this cabin held stories and secrets of its own. Despite its worn appearance and reputation as cursed due to floods in the past, something about it fascinated her. This could be my fresh start, she thought, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within her. After making the purchase, Annabel stepped inside the cabin, taking in its creaky floors and peeling walls. It was then that she realized, this place could be more than just a refuge, it could be a new beginning for both her and Rex. Little did she know that this choice would change not only her life but also the fate of an entire town battling impending drought. As Annabel approached the old log cabin, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. The structure was weathered and worn, with a sagging roof and walls that seemed to lean as if they were whispering secrets of the past. The locals had long warned about this place, labeling it cursed due to its history of flooding that had caused many to flee in fear. "What kind of a home is this?" she muttered, shaking her head as Rex sniffed curiously at the ground. Despite the eerie whispers that clung to the cabin like dust, Annabel felt a pull towards it. This could be my chance, she thought. She imagined finding solace among these aged logs and scaring away the shadows of her grief. As she stepped closer, her heart raced with hope. If she could make this place her own, perhaps it would no longer be a site of dread but a sanctuary. Entering the cabin, she was greeted by dim light filtering through cracks in the walls. The floor creaked under her weight, sounding almost like a warning. Cobwebs hung in corners, and remnants of earlier lives littered the space, a rusted pot here, a broken chair there. Yet Annabel saw beyond the disarray. She envisioned warm nights by a fire and the laughter of new friendships as she transformed this desolate spot into something beautiful. Taking a deep breath, she decided to buy the cabin. "It's just $5, she reminded herself, feeling both nervous and thrilled. As she signed the papers and officially claimed her new home, she ignored the warnings of the townsfolk ringing in her ears. "Cursed or not," she said softly to Rex, "this is where we'll start anew." With that, Annabel took her first steps into a future full of possibilities, unaware that beneath the floorboards lay an underground spring, an element that would soon change everything for both her and the entire town facing dire drought conditions. With a flutter of determination in her heart, Annabel stood before the weathered cabin, Rex by her side, his ears perked up as if sensing her emotions. The fading sunlight cast long shadows, and she felt a connection to this lonely place that mirrored her own feelings of isolation. "This could be our home, Rex," she whispered, kneeling to scratch behind his ears. His warm, trusting eyes met hers, and she felt a spark of hope igniting within her. As she made her decision to buy the cabin, Annabel's mind raced with possibilities. She imagined filling the rooms with the laughter of friends, hosting gatherings where stories would flow like the water she hoped to find beneath the floorboards. "We can create a beautiful life here," she told Rex, who wagged his tail as if he understood every word. Ignoring the tales of curses that hung in the air like fog, she focused on her vision for this new beginning. Once the purchase was finalized, Annabel stepped outside with renewed energy. The cabin had its flaws, but she saw beauty in its ruggedness. "We'll fix it up together," she promised Rex, who barked happily in response. The thought of turning this place into a haven filled her with excitement. Every crack and creak of the cabin was a reminder that it had endured hardships, much like herself. she spent days cleaning and organizing, finding joy in simple tasks while Rex explored their new surroundings. Each evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Annabelle would sit on the porch, watching the stars appear one by one. In those quiet moments, she felt a sense of peace start to settle in her heart. This cabin was no longer just a shelter, it was a symbol of resilience and hope, a place where she could heal and begin anew, hand in paw with her faithful companion. Little did she know that their journey together would soon take an unexpected turn, one that would change everything for both her and the town around them. As Annabelle settled into her new home, every day brought a renewed sense of purpose and possibility. With Rex by her side, she dedicated herself to cleaning, repairing, and restoring the cabin, transforming it from a forsaken structure into a cozy retreat. One sunny afternoon, while digging around the yard to plant some wildflowers, her shovel hit something hard beneath the soil. Curious, she cleared away the dirt and uncovered a small, gnarled rock that protruded from the ground. Intrigued, Annabelle knelt beside it and gently brushed away the remaining dirt. As she dug a little deeper, she heard a soft trickling sound. What could that be? She wondered aloud, her heart quickening with excitement. Following the sound, she continued to excavate until water began to seep up through the cracks in the earth. Within moments, a small stream formed, flowing steadily and sparkling in the sunlight. Annabelle jumped up in surprise and shouted, "Rex! Come here!" Her dog padded over quickly, sniffing at the bubbling water with keen interest. Annabelle knelt down again, cupping her hands to drink from this unexpected source. The water felt cool and refreshing, a delightful contrast to the warm rays of sunlight beating down. Realizing that this was no ordinary water source, she marveled at its temperature, 52 degrees year-round. The news spread quickly through her mind, an underground spring. It struck her like a bolt of lightning. The cabin would not only be their home but also a life-giving resource for herself and potentially for others in need. As she sat back on her heels, Rex rested his head on her lap. Annabelle felt a wave of hope wash over her. In a time when drought threatened everything around them, this spring could change lives. Little did she know how crucial it would become as the impending drought tightened its grip on the entire town. Just as Annabelle began to feel settled in her new life, dark clouds gathered on the horizon, signaling trouble for the entire county. A severe drought swept through the region, with the sun blazing relentlessly in the sky and no rain in sight. The farmers, who once thrived on their crops, watched helplessly as their fields turned brown and lifeless. The wells that had provided them with water began to run dry, leaving families desperate and fearful. Rumors spread quickly through town about the devastation. The cattle were dying, unable to find enough water to survive. The once vibrant sounds of livestock and laughter faded into haunting silence as ranchers were forced to sell their remaining cattle at rock-bottom prices or watch them perish from thirst. Each passing day brought more despair, and townsfolk gathered in hushed circles, their faces etched with worry. Amid the turmoil, Annabelle felt a growing sense of urgency about her discovery of the underground spring. This water could help them, she thought, her heart racing with determination. She began to devise a plan. Each morning, she would take buckets of water from the spring and fill them for neighbors who desperately needed it for their crops or animals. With Rex faithfully by her side, she trekked through town offering help wherever she could. At first, some townsfolk were hesitant to accept assistance from the widow they had once judged so harshly. But as they witnessed her kindness and selflessness, more people began to rally around her efforts. Annabelle's cabin became a hub of hope in a time of uncertainty. With each bucket she filled and shared, she not only quenched thirsts but also started to mend broken bonds within the community. As word spread about the miraculous spring beneath her home, Annabelle realized that her decision to purchase the cabin was more than just a fresh start, it was becoming a lifeline in a time when every drop counted. Little did she know that this act of generosity would lead to an even greater transformation for herself and those around her in their struggle against nature's wrath. As the drought worsened, Annabelle's realization about the underground spring grew clearer with each passing day. She watched as more and more townsfolk gathered around her cabin, weary and desperate for relief. They arrived with empty buckets and sunken faces, hoping for even a small taste of water to help their dying crops or thirsty animals. It tugged at her heart to see their struggles, but it also fueled her determination to help them. One afternoon, while thinking of how she could do more, Annabelle stood at the entrance of her cabin and gazed out at the parched land that surrounded her. The fields were brown, and the once bustling town felt like a ghost of its former self. What if this spring could save all of us, she pondered, her mind racing with possibilities. It was more than just a source of water for her, it had the potential to revive the entire community. With renewed spirit, she began organizing a system to distribute the water from the spring. Each day, before dawn, Annabelle filled as many buckets as she could manage. "We can do this together," she told Rex confidently, who barked in agreement. Instead of just providing water for individual families, she planned a community gathering to share the resource more efficiently. When the sun began to rise, illuminating the valley with soft light, townspeople arrived at her cabin, curious about what Annabelle had in mind. With her heart full of hope, she explained her plan. They would work together to create channels that would direct the spring water to more parts of the town. A sense of unity started to build among them, transforming feelings of despair into determination. As they worked side by side, sharing not only water but also stories and laughter, Annabelle felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. With each passing day, she realized that this underground spring was not just the key to surviving, it was a symbol of resilience and hope that could restore the town's spirit. The bond among neighbors grew stronger as they faced adversity together. Little did they know, this was only the beginning of a much larger journey that would change their lives forever. With the townspeople gathered around her cabin, Annabelle felt a surge of determination as she laid out her plan. "We need to dig channels to direct the water from the spring," she announced, her voice steady and confident. The community listened intently, their eyes lighting up with hope at the mention of water. "If we work together, we can help our farms and livestock survive this drought." Each morning, as dawn broke over the horizon, Annabelle and her neighbors would gather with shovels and buckets, ready to transform the land around them. They carved out trenches in the earth, channeling the underground spring's precious water towards nearby fields. With every scoop of dirt that flew behind them, a sense of camaraderie grew among the group. Laughter echoed through the air as they shared stories, and Rex bounded happily between them, joining in on the excitement. As the days passed and their efforts took shape, Annabelle marveled at how quickly the channels began to fill with sweet, clear water. "Look at it flow," she would exclaim, watching as the life-giving liquid trickled through the new pathways they had created. Neighbors filled their buckets and dashed back to their crops with renewed vigor. It felt like a miracle, a promise that life could continue, even in such harsh conditions. One afternoon, while working under the sun, Annabelle noticed a sparkle in the eyes of an elderly farmer named Mr. Jenkins. "You've brought us all together, Annabelle," he said with a warm smile. "This water isn't just saving our crops, it's bringing our community back to life." His words resonated deeply within her. As they dug deeper into their work, Annabelle realized that the spring was not only a source of physical sustenance, it was also rekindling friendships and forging new bonds among the townsfolk. Together, they faced adversity united by a shared goal, survival. Little did she know that this simple act of digging channels would ignite a spirit of resilience that would carry them through even darker days ahead. As the townspeople continued to witness the miraculous flow of water from Annabelle's spring, their initial skepticism began to fade. The widow who had once been seen as an outcast, burdened by her tragic past, was now transforming into a symbol of hope and resilience. Each day, more families gathered around her cabin, eager to lend a hand and share in the life-giving resource she had unearthed. With each bucket filled and every channel dug, Annabelle's reputation shifted. People no longer whispered about the cursed cabin, instead, they spoke of the widow who had brought salvation to their land. Children ran up to her with bright smiles, calling her Miss Annabelle, while adults expressed their gratitude with heartfelt words. "You've saved us," one farmer exclaimed after watching his crops begin to flourish again. "We owe you everything." Feeling the warmth of newfound acceptance, Annabelle was touched by their kindness. The laughter and chatter that filled her once lonely cabin created an atmosphere of camaraderie that had been missing for so long. It felt like a family gathering rather than mere neighbors working side by side. Yet it wasn't just the water that changed lives, it was also Annabelle's spirit. She shared stories of her journey, the joys and sorrows that had shaped her into who she was today. Her vulnerability encouraged others to open up about their own struggles and dreams, forging connections that deepened the bonds within the community. As days turned into weeks, Annabelle saw not only the fields transforming from lifeless brown to vibrant green but also the people around her growing stronger together. They were no longer isolated individuals facing a harsh reality, they were a united front against adversity. In time, Annabelle became known as the savior of the town, a title she wore with humility and grace. Little did she know that this transformation would inspire others beyond their small community, reminding them all that even in the darkest times, hope could bloom when people came together for a common purpose. As the days turned into weeks, Annabelle's acts of kindness began to ripple through the town like the water flowing from her spring. She not only offered the precious resource but also her support and friendship to those around her. Neighbors who once hardly spoke now gathered at her cabin, sharing news, worries, and laughter. Children played in the yard while their parents worked together to tend to their fields, each day filled with a renewed sense of purpose. One afternoon, as Annabelle helped her mother carry buckets, she heard the sound of laughter nearby. Turning, she saw a group of women sharing a simple meal under the shade of a tree. It warmed her heart to know that they were bonding over shared struggles and joys. "Let's make this a regular gathering," one of them suggested, smiling at Annabelle as she joined them. "We can support one another through these tough times." The idea sparked excitement, and soon a weekly gathering was born. With each meeting, friendships blossomed. They exchanged stories about their hopes and dreams, drawing strength from one another. Annabelle's own feelings of isolation faded away, replaced by the warmth of community. Together, they shared recipes, tales of resilient women in their families, and laughter that echoed through the once quiet landscape. As Annabelle continued to share her spring's water and newfound friendship, she found herself at the center of a blossoming community. No longer just a widow living in a cursed cabin, she had transformed into a steady beacon of hope. Neighbors started coming to her for advice and comfort, seeking her out not just for water but for companionship. In the midst of struggle, this unity created an indomitable spirit within the town. It became clear that hope thrived in shared experiences and mutual support. The drought still loomed outside, but inside this circle of hopeful hearts, resilience grew stronger each day. Annabelle had forged not only new friendships but also a family bound by shared strength, proving that even in dire times, kindness could break barriers and save lives. As the drought finally began to relent, the townspeople marveled at how their lives had transformed in such a short time. Fields that had once been barren and lifeless now blossomed with vibrant crops, thanks to the water flowing from Annabelle's spring. The community had rallied together, and the bonds they forged during those challenging weeks had created an unbreakable unity among them. Annabelle stood on her porch one bright morning, watching as families worked together to harvest the first fruits of their labor. Laughter filled the air, a joyful sound that had been absent for far too long. Beside her, Rex barked excitedly, sensing the happiness radiating around him. It warmed Annabelle's heart to see how far they had come, from desperate individuals struggling to survive to a thriving community ready to embrace life again. The townsfolk frequently gathered at her cabin, not only for water but also for companionship and support. They shared meals and stories under the shade of her porch, celebrating their resilience and newfound friendship. Annabelle felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She was no longer just a widow seeking solace but a vital part of something much larger than herself. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Annabelle organized a celebration to honor their achievements. The townspeople came together, bringing dishes made from their fresh produce and sharing laughter as they enjoyed music played by local musicians. It was a heartfelt gathering steeped in gratitude for the spring that saved them all. As she looked around at smiling faces illuminated by lantern light, Annabelle reflected on her journey. She had risen from despair to become a beacon of hope for others. The cursed cabin that she once feared now stood as a symbol of renewal and strength, a testament to what can be achieved when people come together in kindness and support. In that moment, surrounded by friends who had become family, Annabelle understood that this was only the beginning. With their spirits high and hearts united, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing they could thrive together, forever grateful for the extraordinary spring that turned their lives around.